California Cooperative Extension offices in Contra Costa County. And I am Janet Caprio, and I'm the farm advisor for Contra Costa County. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about the resources that Cooperative Extension has available for new growers and old growers and all growers in between. So we've got a lot of resources available to the agricultural community. And one of the resources we have is that we have advisors that can talk to you about your operation and provide general advice on how to grow, what to grow, marketing, all sorts of aspects of agriculture. And actually in the back of the room there, I've got a little table with University of California resources. And one of the things on that table is a list of advisors that serve Contra Costa County. I'm the advisor that works with the commercial agricultural crops. We have another advisor that works with the commercial livestock crops. And we have an advisor, a brand new advisor. Where's Rob? Right. There he is. Okay. Rob, would you stand up? Sure. Rob has been here just a couple of months. He's our new county director, and also his area is urban agriculture. So if there's folks that are more oriented towards the urban agricultural area, Rob's name is on this list too. Give him a call. So just to introduce you to the people, in addition to talking to folks on the telephone, we may need to visit the site if there's some particular on-site problem that needs a visual identification. We've got a lot of, so in addition to people resources, we have publication resources. And also in the back of the room, I've got a little stack of publication catalogs. And I just have a few of these full-scale publication catalogs because it's an old one. We're going to the digital age. They haven't produced the paper catalog since 2011. But what I did do is reproduce the front of the catalog because the website address is on there. Much more thorough catalog. It has all the new stuff. And it has priced agricultural publications, which are some of the, I have a selection of some big, fat, hefty, nice publications that we charge for. But there's also, on the online catalog, a lot of free publications on all sorts of things. So anything that would be less than 8 or 10 pages, you can download for free. So we've got a lot of publications available. Check the website out. If you don't have web access, take a paper copy. And in addition to publications, we also have a lot of internet resources. So I have another sheet in the back that has my Contra Costa County Agricultural Production website. So I've got a lot of information that I've put together for new growers on the kinds of crops that we grow here in Contra Costa County. So fruits and nuts, there's a section on vegetables and herbs and flowers. There's a section on field crops. There's management information there, soil and water stuff, a section on food safety and good agricultural practices. Anyway, I'll let you take a look. And on the back of that is a lot of very useful University of California Cooperative Extension websites on all sorts of topics, cost studies, fruits, nuts, vegetables, everything. So again, I don't want to take a lot of time, but there's a section of that in the back. And then I also put out a newsletter for agricultural producers, and I have an email list. And so if you would like to get on the email list so that you would, I sent out an announcement about this meeting. Apparently you got it some other way, or maybe you're on my newsletter list. But anyway, if you'd like to be on the newsletter list and you're not, or just on my email list, go ahead and fill this thing out and leave it in the box in the back. Anyway, so that's just a little bit of an overview of some resources. Did you want to say something else, Rob?
Just a quick note. This workshop's about developing a marketing strategy, and it's so important to have a marketing strategy. And just keep in mind, we're trying not to work in silos. We're all trying to work together, and that's what came about to develop this workshop. It's working with Susan Ellsworth and her staff with the RCD to get this workshop going and to work with all of you to try to be as supportive as possible, to be economically viable and productive, and ultimately revitalize a lot of the communities we're working in. So we're just grateful to have you all here, and hope you enjoy the presentation and workshop. Thank you.
So with that, I think we're going to turn it over to Susan, and I'll be here for the rest of the day, and so we can talk, or if you have questions, you can get me at the break.
All right. So I'm Susan Ellsworth. I am the Farm and Ranch Education Coordinator at the Alameda County Resource Conservation District, which is located in Livermore. And the Beginning Farmer Rancher program is essentially a program geared towards providing educational support, technical assistance, and something that I call resource matching, which is, if I can't answer your question, sometimes I know who can. So that program has been going on for about 2 years, still pretty new. We're entering our 3rd year, and this workshop is part of that series. So very happy to be here today talking about marketing with some wonderful producers and speakers and buyers who are going to share with us their wisdom and experience. I want to take a quick look at our agenda, just so you have a sense for what we're in for today. So in your packet, and hopefully you all have one, you should find an agenda. We're going to spend the first hour with our first speaker, Marisa Alcorta, who is going to kind of talk with us about some of the big points, major considerations in developing your marketing plan. And I'm going to sort of cut her off at 45 minutes, which is going to be hard, but just to leave enough time for some questions from you all. And then we're going to transfer pretty quickly into our first panel with 3 producers. And I'm going to introduce them, ask them a couple sort of scene-setting questions, and then again, open it up to you all to ask those burning questions. Then we'll take a 15-minute break so you can kind of get up and grab something to drink, use the restroom. And then we're going to reconvene pretty promptly at 5:30. I'm going to try and keep us on schedule today so that we'll have an hour with our last panel, which is our buyer side panel. 4 excellent folks here today. Same thing, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, ask a few questions, and then let you dive in. And then adjourn pretty promptly at 6:30 so that we have a little bit of time to kind of hang out, chit-chat informally, and any questions you haven't been able to ask during the presentation, you can then go and ask a speaker yourself. A couple of housekeeping things. If you haven't already signed in on our list, please see Hillary in the back of the room. She's got the yellow shirt on. What I'm going to try and do is use that list and then share it with everybody that's here. So if you could make sure that your contact information is on there. I find that folks often like to have each other's contact information so that in case you meet somebody, have a really good conversation, you can then circle back and connect with that person later. If you don't want your name on that list, just see me and we'll take you off. If you'd like to be on our email list so that you can receive information about these kinds of workshops in the future, there's a list right over there, a little sign that says sign up for our email list. Stick your name on there. Just by having RSVP'd, I'm not going to blast you with emails. So if you want to be on our list, add your name there. In your packet, this is an important piece for us, are some evaluations. It is a single evaluation. If you could take the time, pretty please, and fill that out before you leave, that really helps me to make improvements in these workshops each time I do them. There's a little black tray over there. You can stick it in on your way out. And bathrooms are down that hall quite a ways, like 20 yards on your right, just past the kitchen. And hopefully parking wasn't too much of a hassle. As long as you're in that lot right there or on that street, sort of as far up as you want, you should be totally fine. I think school's letting out, which is why it was a little bit of a mob scene.
Some of us parked at the next parking lot. Is that okay?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Janet, she here? I think it's fine.
I think it should be fine.
Okay. And then I just want to say a quick thank you to our co-sponsors today, to Janet and UC Cooperative Extension for hosting us here, to NCAT, National Center for Appropriate Technology, Marisa, and for her time kind of preparing for this. For really the bulk of the materials that you see in your packet are NCAT materials, really fantastic stuff. A whole bunch of other things on their website. I think she'll talk about that a little bit. And then also to the Contra Costa Resource Conservation District to Ben Wallace, who's their executive director, who ran our BART shuttle today. And Ben is new to the organization, fairly new, and a really great asset in Contra Costa County. So if you want to say quick couple words.
Sure. It's great to see so many people here interested in this topic. We are the Contra Costa Resource Conservation District, or RCD, often partners with the Alameda RCD. And so like in this case, we partnered, which means that we put our logo on the flyer and Susan Ellsworth did all the work. The best kind of partnership, I have to say. Now, I started in June with the RCD, and I'm looking forward to working with Alameda RCD and with all the different partners here in Contra Costa. And we work on voluntary conservation stewardship of our watersheds, and we work with private landowners to do that work here in the county. I also want to mention Hillary Phillips, the woman in the yellow shirt. Hillary Phillips is with the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service. She is our district conservationist here in Contra Costa County. And so she often does projects to help farmers and ranchers with conservation issues on their farms. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker, Marisa Alcorta, who is a sustainable agriculture specialist at the National Center for Appropriate Technology, which is a national organization. Though Marisa is based out of Davis and is very knowledgeable about California ag, and in particular ag sort of in this north central California region. And Marisa has a wealth of experience on issues of relevance to farmers and ranchers in the first 10 years of production, including marketing, which we'll be talking about today, but also through experience in that she recently started a farm in Davis, Cloverleaf Farm, which is a small diversified fruit and veggie CSA. And I had the good fortune of growing a flower share, which I marketed through the Cloverleaf last year. So both Marisa and I are somewhat familiar with some of the ongoing trials and tribulations of successful marketing. So with that.
Thanks, Susan. So actually, I'm not going to stand in front of the. So, hi everyone, welcome, thank you so much for coming, and I'm really excited about being here and the awesome panel of speakers that we have coming. So, let's see.
She's going to advance you.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so just a little bit about my background. I'll just do that really fast. Well actually, you can go back to, yeah. Just a little bit about my background while we're fixing the slides here. I did not grow up on a farm. I actually am a city kid. I was born in Austin, and that's where I grew up. I studied science and math, and when I went to college, I really wanted to learn, studied ethnobotany, which is the relationship between people and plants. And so I ended up doing a lot of, through that was kind of investigating plants that indigenous people were using for medicinal purposes. So I went down to South America a lot and was doing research down there. And that's kind of where my connection to, food as medicine, food is medicine, kind of happened. And so that kind of propelled me into the agriculture field. And so came back and managed the student farm at my university in the Northeast. And then ended up, over the last 14 years or so, I've basically been working with small farmers to help them gain market access, business planning issues, cash flow, kind of the businessy side of farming. And in about 2003, I helped launch the Austin Farmers Market downtown in Austin, and I realized I was just really tired of not farming. So I came to California to farm. I worked on a couple farms here, and discovered my passion for soil, which is actually my favorite workshop to do. But marketing is a close second. And I ended up going to UC Davis and getting my master's in horticulture and agronomy. And on the way, I studied permaculture, and I got my PhD from RDI up in Vilnius as well. And then while I was in grad school, I started working for NCAT and ATRA. And that's been about 5 years now. I've been with NCAT and ATRA, and you can go ahead and go to the slide. And we do a lot of work with beginning farmers, both within this region and nationally. Like Susan said, we're a national organization. We have offices in 7 other states. Davis is our home base here, but we're headquartered in Montana. So how many of you have actually heard of NCAT or ATRA? Okay, great. So I'll keep this brief, but NCAT in general works on sustainable energy and also sustainable agriculture. So our biggest sustainable agriculture project is the ATRA project. And we have a really great toll-free hotline that farmers can access all over the country. We've got about 20 staff with expertise in different areas of sustainable agriculture answering those phone calls. We'll do research for you if we don't know the answer, and we send you information for free. We also have a hotline in Spanish, which I answer to. What else? We have an awesome website. You should check it out. I highly encourage it. We have about 450 publications. We do technical publications on things ranging from water to soil to livestock, biodiesel, energy stuff. And a lot of those publications are in your packet. Some of those publications are in your packet on marketing today. What else? We have databases, an ecological pest management database that's pretty handy if you're looking for alternatives to toxic pesticides or softer chemicals or even organically approved chemicals, pesticides. You can look it up based on pest or based on active ingredient. It's called our biorationals database. And we also have, probably our most popular database is the ATRA Internships and Apprenticeships database, which has over 4,000 listings all over the country. So that's a little bit about ATRA. You can go ahead and that slide. And so, as Susan mentioned, I also started a farm last year with 3 other women, the Cloverleaf Farm. And so I'm going to just tell you a little bit about our experience doing that. It was quite a steep learning curve. I've been wanting to start a farm for like 12 years. And I finally had a chance to do that last year, and it was amazing and fun. So we grew fruits and vegetables. We grew about 1.5 acres. Actually, go ahead and I'm going to just go through these really fast. So we grew about, that's the 4 of us, myself, Aubrey White, Sasha Klein, and Emma Torbert. We grew about 1.5 acres of vegetables on some rented land. We had, Rich Collins was our landlord and mentor / benefactor / angel. He was really amazing. Lent us equipment, helped us connect us with market, so we were very lucky. Go ahead and move forward. We grew about 30 different varieties of crops. We started our season in May and went through November. Go ahead and begin. What else can I tell you? Our biggest pests were rabbits and cucumber beetle, harlequin beetles. But the history was that in 2011, Sasha and Emma actually started, Sasha and Emma actually started the farm just growing vegetables and on 2 acres. And they had actually tried to access farmers markets in the Davis area, which were really hard to get into, and the ones that they could access were not very lucrative. So they had to kind of change plans. They were kind of selling to a few restaurants here and there, but it wasn't very, it just wasn't very supportive, it wasn't very profitable. So at the end of 2011, they ended up, Rich offered them to take over the management of his 4-acre stone fruit orchard. And so they decided to take that on, but if they did do that, then they're going to need to bring on new partners. So that's when Aubrey and I came on in fall of 2011. And we kind of redid the whole business plan and marketing plan. And so then we took off. And so we ended up growing vegetables, keep going. And for our CSA, keep going, please. And then we also ended up doing the fruit, keep going. So that's our fruit orchard. We had 4 acres, like I said, and we had nectarines, apricots, and peaches. We had about 7 to 10 varieties of each. And we were lucky, Rich planted them early varieties to late varieties, so we kind of, our season went from early June to kind of mid-September. And they were all fantastic he knew what he was doing. I mean, these trees were only 4 years old, so we really kind of walked into a gold mine. But we didn't really know what we were doing, so we didn't do a great job spraying. You know, we didn't know spray regimes, we were learning all that stuff. So we ended up probably 50% of our orchard was kind of hit pretty hard with diseases, typical diseases, brown rot, powdery mildew, thrips. So it was interesting figuring out how to deal with that on top of everything. You can keep flipping through it. So, yeah, go ahead. And our varieties are pretty tasty. Go ahead, yeah. So that's a little bit about the fruit. And then our marketing outlets, we had a 37-member CSA. I'll talk about that a little more in depth later. But we put fruit in our baskets. Go ahead. We put fruit in our baskets as well, and we had 4 of those members that were fruit-only CSA. And then we also sold wholesale to Buy Right Market in the Mission, which was a fantastic outlet for us. We learned a lot about selling to wholesalers, which is a bit tricky. It's very different from selling direct. Going. And then we also had a farm stand that we sold through on Sundays. We were pretty lucky about this. It was already set up. Rich had the infrastructure already laid out. These tables were his. And then we kind of co-marketed with a bunch of different farms around us to bring in things like honey and almonds and the popsicles. We worked with Pop Nation down here in the Bay, and they were buying fruit from local farmers in our area, and then they were making the popsicles with our fruit, and then we were selling them. So it was, and then here's some beautiful flowers that Susan grew. We were able to sell them as well up in our farm stand. So keep going.
Can we ask questions?
Actually, can we hold those? to
Okay,
the end?
sure.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Quick clarifying questions. I would say shoot, maybe hold the rest of them and we'll leave 10 or 15 minutes.
Actually, yeah, I mean, I love questions, but I
Yeah.
just don't know how much time I'm
Yeah.
gonna have.
Let's hold them.
Okay, keep going. Okay, so yeah, and those are the popsicles, and they were really popular with our customers. Okay, so that's a little bit about the farm, and actually I really do welcome questions about the farm because I feel like that's a really interesting piece, and I learned a lot from that. So if you have questions after my talk, during the panel or whatever, I'll be available to also answer questions. Okay, so my friend Paul Underhill, who runs Terra Firma in Winters, says this so much to me that I figured I finally better put it in the talk. Marketing and record keeping are the difference between farming for a living and gardening. And it's true. I think the key to successful farmers, I think the common denominator, one of them at least, is that they have a very entrepreneurial spirit. And people who want to make a living from farming take it seriously as a business. And if you're going to do that, then you really have to be excited about promoting your product. You have to be excited about keeping records, oddly enough, because you have to know, what you're doing in terms of your markets, what's making you money and what's costing you money. So these are 2 things that I think are key to being a successful farmer in terms of making a living. So let's move forward. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a marketing strategy, and by that I kind of mean also a marketing plan. So marketing plan, in my mind, is something that you actually write down. So I'm kind of framing this in a way of as if you would write these things down. And I'd highly encourage that. How many of you right now actually have a marketing plan? A written marketing plan? Fantastic. Okay, so 4 out of 50, and that's pretty small. So yeah, it's a hard thing to do. And we didn't have one when we started Cloverleaf, and this is why I have so much to say about it now, because we really learned a lot. I also am just curious about you guys. How many of you here are not yet farming but would like to start? Okay, so a handful. And then how many of you are farming but have been doing it for less than 10 years? Okay, great. So, thanks. Okay, so good. Yeah, this is really targeted towards beginning farmers, so I feel like this is going to be good for you guys, this audience. All right, so these are the things that I would include in a marketing strategy, the most important things. Who your target market is, who are you selling to, what product is that you're going to sell, or multiple products, your competition, your distribution outlets, your marketing outlets, what your pricing plan is. These are things that you are actually going to be thinking about and writing down. What your promotion strategy is. Inventory and storage is actually a really important piece of your marketing plan. and then your customer relationships. So most, MBAs, when I go to like marketing talks that are like from business schools and stuff, they really focus on your target market, and they say target market is like the most important piece of a marketing plan. And while it is important, I guess from my experience, I feel like there's these trifecta that happens with products and distribution, where the three of these actually have very, very strong interactions, right? They're all influenced by the other. Your product and your distribution totally influence your target market. Your distribution influences your product influences your distribution. So these things like, for example, let's say your target market is an ethnic group. Well, you're not going to want to grow like Romanesco for like Somali refugees, right? They're going to have to know what it is. So it's going to influence your product. And if you want to do a CSA, well, you're not going to grow 2 acres of processing tomatoes, right? It's going to and you're going to have to grow a diversity of products. So they all feed each other, and they're all really important to kind of hold in your head at the same time when you're starting out and thinking about what you're going to do. And then clearly, all of these are also influenced by your farming values. So that's kind of the biggest weight on all of these. Like, for example, if you want your kids to grow up around animals, well, then you're probably going to want to do meat or dairy at some point. Or if you, really strongly feel strongly about organic, then it's going to influence your marketing outlets and potentially your target market, right? Who you're selling to. So those are just some things to think about. And here's kind of the questions that I think you would ask yourself when you're writing this piece of your marketing plan. Where do they live? What's their demographic? So that's kind of what's their ethnicity, their gender, how they have families, what's their income bracket. And then their psychographic is what are their attitudes and values. That's a different class. Are they health conscious? Do they value convenience? Do they value organic? What are their needs and preferences? Are they into local? So those are some of the things you would consider when you're writing and thinking about your target market. And then it's really hard to figure this out, but demographic information, it's actually not hard to figure this out. It seems really intimidating. When I had to do this, I was like, oh my God. But if you go to the U.S. Census Bureau, there's this fact finder tool, and you can kind of just type in a zip code, and you can look up some basic demographics on a certain region. So if you're thinking about maybe doing a farmer's market in a certain region, you should go and check it out. See what who's there, who's in the city, what the population is like. And you should also go there and find out, well, what other farmers markets what are all the farmers markets that are happening? How full are they? How hard are they to get into? Is there something that's missing in this farmers market? But these are all kind of, but the demographic information you can also find at the public library. That's like old school. And something else to look at when you're visiting different places where you might want to market is something called Lifestyles of Health and Sustainability, which they call LOHAS, I guess. But the deal with that is that there's been studies that have shown that people who care about their health actually care a lot about their food, right? It's kind of basic connection. But if you can find a place where you're looking for like indicators of people who care about their health. So bike paths, are people out jogging and running? Is there like a bunch of exercise, gyms around? Those are indicators of health. And generally, this is going to be a population that's going to be interested in buying food directly from you. Okay. Products. So when you're thinking about products, these are some of the questions you might want to consider. Is there a demand for your product? Are there marketing outlets nearby? And then can you afford to produce it? And is there infrastructure? So Sasha and Emma, when they first started the farm, really wanted to produce chickens. And so they ran the numbers and they did all the research and they realized it was going to cost $30,000 just to get started with all the infrastructure they had to put in place. And so they're just like, nope, off we go. I'm gonna, we're gonna just start with vegetables because it's so much easier to get in with vegetables. So start with vegetables, and then once we start generating some income and some profit, we can potentially, build the infrastructure and the cost it's gonna take to start with chickens. And then how much of it can you produce? You know, if you're on 1 acre, does it make sense for you to do a wholesale market, for example? You know, how much are you going to actually be able to produce? Okay, going. And then one of the biggest questions for your product is how and why is it going to be valuable to your customers? You know, what's going to be different about it? Are you going to have this amazing? And people always say, well, mine's going to be really high quality, right? That's like always the answer. But how are you going to do that? And do you know how to do that? Do you know how mosaic virus affects the taste of your fruit? Do you know about different cooling requirements and storage requirements for golden zucchini versus green zucchini? Now, these are things that you actually have to learn in order to make sure your quality is high. And then these other things, are you going to compete on price? Not really recommended. But what's your story? Do you have an interesting story? Are you in a really neat location? This is fine. We can go back to this one. Yeah. Okay, so just a couple things about niche markets. And then hopefully the panel will talk more about this too. Niche markets are it's a segment of the market that has a demand that's not being met, right? So organic produce, there's a lot of demand for organic produce. It's a niche market. Value-added meat, like jerky, like charcuterie is starting to become kind of a niche market. Ethnic markets, there's a lot of immigrants and refugees from different countries here who are looking for foods that are familiar to their culture. Staples like grains and beans, that's starting to become pretty popular in a lot of areas, especially growing locally. People want their main calories to be able to come, from the local region. And then specialty crops. This actually, bulk quantities, this is a really interesting thing. In Montana, I know about a CSA that grows, it's a bulk CSA. And what they do is they grow vegetables in huge quantities. So in Montana, the season's only like, 3.5 months long or something ridiculous like that. But at the end of the season, your box is like, 400 pounds of tomatoes and like 600 pounds of potatoes. And you basically get that and you just are crazy canning all fall until, storing it up for the winter. So that's a niche market. And then early and late season produce and winter crops. And those are pretty easy to do around here with food houses and season extension tactics. Okay, so competition is a really important piece of your marketing plan. And it's easy to ignore, but I highly recommend you don't. It's easier if you can segment it out by product and by your distribution channel. So, for example, if you want to do a CSA, that's a distribution channel, right? So how many other CSAs are there around you? What are they selling? What are they including in their boxes? What's their price structure? You need to detail that out. In Davis, there's a million CSAs, and we didn't do that, but it would have been really nice to know, who our competition was. And then by product, if you're going to be selling milk, for example, well, who else is selling your milk around here? What is different about it? And those are the questions. What's their unique characteristics about it? And then what's yours? How are you going to make it different? So again, these are things you're going to be writing out. Go ahead. Okay, and then distribution channels, like I said, they're influenced by your product and your target market, but they're also influenced by these other things: competition, demand, economics. The classic example is like going to a farmer's market like 3 or 4 hours away because it's a really good market, and then realizing that the cost of your gas and your 15 gallons per mile truck, plus like your time, plus having to pay somebody to help you staff the market, is it going to equal out the cost benefit? So it's really important to look at all of these aspects of a distribution channel when you're evaluating it ahead of time. This is part of the planning piece. And then delivery schedules too. Sorry, I keep slipping like that. Delivery schedules, what do I want to say about delivery schedules? So if you're going to be selling, if you're going to be decide that you're going to start selling wholesale and you want to do large volumes, but you've only got a little hatchback Civic, well, you got to figure out how you're going to transport stuff, right? And it's just classic. I mean, we did this so many times, just like we were selling like 1,000 onions to Cape Hay Organics, and we were harvesting them out of the ground, and we realized, oh my God, how are we gonna get these over there? It was just something that you just need to plan. So, and then packaging and infrastructure is also, important because sometimes particular markets have very specific requirements about packaging. Like if you're going to sell large quantities to the terminal market, for example, they have grading requirements. So you've got to make sure your apples are exactly the same size. Okay, going. Oh yeah, and just a plug for the tip sheets. I'm not going to go into lots of different distribution channels because the tip sheets in your packet pretty much cover them. This is part of the business planning toolkit that we produced, that NCAP produced recently. And it covers the 13 different channels for crops, and I think 5 different channels for livestock. And we covered advantages, considerations, and tips. And then we also asked kind of key questions to ask yourself if you're thinking about getting into case markets. So I think that's going to cover kind of looking at the different distribution channels, and the panel lecture will be happy to answer questions about that. So let's move on. And I'm going to talk a little more about the distribution channels that we chose because I have more experience with that. So like I said, we sold to Buy Right. We sold our fruit to Buy Right. And this is a question I will have for the panel too to answer. I feel like we got really lucky, and Buy Right is probably not your typical wholesaler. They have a very strong commitment to purchasing from from local producers and supporting small local farms. So, we would do things like they would order 30 flats of our peaches, and we'd call them up and be like, oh, we actually only have 19. And they're like, great, bring it down, that's great. I feel like that's probably not your typical response. It's not super responsible or consistent. So I think we'll hear from the panel more about what a typical wholesaler would want. But it was a great outlet for us, and we learned a lot by communicating with them. We learned how to communicate with our buyers. They were really flexible with us, but they also, we asked for feedback on our quality of our fruit. And we had this grading system where we had, like I said, we had powdery mildew on a lot of them. So we had highest quality was going to go to Buy Right, and then the second quality would go to our CSA and our farm stand, and then lowest quality would go to our dryer and our jam makers. And they would tell us, no, you guys sent these a little too ripe. Can you pick them earlier next time, or pick them a little less, ripe? So that was really helpful feedback to have. And then with our farm stand, let's see, what did I tell you? The farm stand was actually a fantastic outlet just for visibility. So we were actually located right on the side of the highway, and I mean literally, the highway bordered our farm. So we could actually we paid this high school student to design and paint these. She was an art student, so there's beautiful 20-foot by 10-foot wooden signs, and we just stick them up along the highway, and then they were beautiful pictures of carrots and peaches and popsicles, and people coming back from Tahoe. So Tahoe to Bay Area traffic on Sunday afternoons. Are you guys familiar with this? It's a parking lot, right? So, and it's a parking lot in front of our farm stand. It was really awesome. So people would pull off the highway and just, be so excited that they could have a popsicle, or that they could just get out of their car and look at our farm or whatever. So that was actually great for visibility. And I think on our highest, our most successful day, peak season, we were probably pulling at about $2,000 in a day at the farm stand. But probably half of that was popsicles. So I don't know that it was super, super lucrative, but it was really good for repeat customers and visibility. Okay, so let's go on. And then the next one is our CSA. And I just want to say, even though the farm started in 2011, we really kind of relaunched the farm in 2012. When we had a whole new team, we were growing a whole new enterprise. And something that I tell farmers is never ever start a CSA your first year. And I still say that, and I still believe that. And I will tell you the only reason that we decided to do that is because I fought real hard for it. But, against it, I mean, but the reason that I decided to do it is because our target market was gonna be friends and family. And that's it. People who we knew, who knew that we were starting a farm, who wanted to support us, and who knew that we were gonna be screwing up a lot. And they were okay with it, you know? And that's why I felt like it was okay to go ahead and try it. Because the reason that you don't start a CSA your first year is because your learning curve is super steep, right? You're learning your soil, you're learning your climate, you're learning your systems. You don't even have systems down yet. You're figuring out your packing, your washing. You don't even know if you get along with your partners, if you have partners. So there's so much up in the air that, you know, having the added pressure of having to produce a set amount of quality and quantity every week, or maybe multiple times a week, is just a really big strain. And if something happens, like all the rabbit seeds for melons, then, you know, you have a crop loss. And if you can't produce, you might start getting a bad reputation. And bad reputations in the food and farming world are really hard to recover from. So, I wouldn't have done that this way, but it worked out fine. Actually, 2 weeks before the launch of our CSA, we started panicking because our crops were not growing. We had like really stunted plants. The rabbits had eaten all the melons. Our whole set of basil had died. You know, we didn't know what was going on. We were just like, oh my gosh, this is not like it was last year. We're going to have to call our CSA members and just tell them that we might not have, you know, their first week is going to be kind of like sparse, you know, or if anything. And we were really upset. And so we emailed everybody and said, you know, if you guys want, like, we're still learning, like this is our learning phase, and if you guys want, you know, a bountiful basket of beautiful produce this summer, then, you know, you might want to join another CSA. Like, we'll be happy to give you your money back. You know, you've already paid us, but like, this is, you know, we're not sure what's going to happen. And so we gave them an opportunity to pull out. And do you know, a single person canceled? In fact, we got like 6 emails that were like, you know, I didn't join the CSA to get like this beautiful box of produce. I joined the CSA to support beginning farmers, which was amazing, and we all like cried. But yeah, it was incredible the support that we had. So I think that's probably a good way to do it if you're going to do it on the first year. Okay. And then this ended up, you know, this started out as being kind of a side market, but ended up being a really important piece of our marketing strategy because we had so much fruit that was seconds and that was damaged from our lack of pest protection. So that's a picture of powdery mildew on our peaches. So you can see they have like little white spots. They don't actually do any damage to the fruit. It's mostly surface damage, but it can get pretty bad. And it just depends. So we would have this system, like I said, like by right got no speckly fruit at all. But our CSA members got like between, you know, maybe 2 to 4 speckles was like our CSA, and then our jam makers, you know, would get maybe like 6 to 8. But we had very high connections to very high-end jam makers, and so sometimes they didn't want any speckles, even though it was completely fine to the fruit. But these were some of the outlets that we ended up going. We had a dryer, everything under the sun, and we were able to just give him a lot of the stuff that we just couldn't sell to anyone. And he would dry it for us, and then he would, instead of paying him, his deal was the barter, so he would keep a portion of our dried fruit, and then we would take the rest. And I mean, ultimately, we ended up figuring out that we were getting like 50 cents for a pound, which was ridiculous, but it was something. Our fruit was going somewhere at least. And then Shelley, Rich's wife, was making blackberry pies for her farmer's market farm stand. And so she bought some of our second fruit also to make pies and tarts for our farm stand as well. So those are some of the areas that we did with value added, which ended up being really helpful. Okay, and I'm not going to talk a lot about wholesale markets because we have some great experts in the room about that. So, but the one thing I want to say is how important it was to come up with a pricing availability wholesale list. So an availability sheet is something that you make that says, this is what I have this week, this coming week. This is and this is how much it's going to be, and this is the quantities I'm going to have for you. And then here's my contact information if you'd like to get a hold of me. So that's what you need to have. It's part of your promotional packet, actually. It's part of your promotional packet. You always need to have that on hand that you can just hand to a buyer. And that's going to be a restaurant, that's going to be a grocery store, any kind of like medium to large scale buyer you're going to want to have for participating. Okay. And we can just skip this because we're going to have everybody else talk about it. So inventory and storage, you might be surprised to hear that this is an important piece of your marketing plan, but the reason that it is because it can actually limit what markets you can access, right? So if you think about it, if you're harvesting the same day you're trying to deliver, your volume is really limited by that morning, right? You can only do so much at like 3 in the morning to like 7, you know, and then you've got to get it out. And so if you've got a cooler, a storage unit, you can harvest for 2 days straight, have a bunch of stuff ready, and send it out multiple times, you know, to different distribution outlets. So it just gives you a lot of leverage. And so you have to really think about that piece when you're thinking about your marketing plan. Okay. Okay, and pricing. So in general, pricing strategies are based on 2 major factors, right? Current market prices and your cost of production. So in the long run, your pricing structure is going to need to cover your cost of production, right? Plus what? Your marketing costs, your distribution costs, and your labor. Ultimately, that's what you want your prices to cover. When you're starting out, you have no idea what it's going to cost you to produce your product. And so it's really important for you to go with the current marketing prices and look at what your competitors are charging based on your distribution channel. And it's actually really important to kind of stay in that little medium because, well, for a lot of reasons. But for example, at a farmer's market, if you're going to be undercutting the farmers in that market, just be warned, you are not going to be very well liked, right? And it's really, this is a very important thing because the farming community is small and we all rely on each other. And at some point, you're going to need help from someone, and you know you want to maintain those good relationships in those markets. So, and these are some examples. The Rodale Organic Price Index is an index that you can look up pricing, wholesale prices both in organic and in conventional markets. And then there's a wholesale price list on AMS, which I'm sure the marketing panel will talk about, where you can also look at prices, conventional prices in those lists as well. So keep track of what your current market prices are. Okay, and then common pricing mistakes.
10 minutes till.
Okay. Okay. So some common pricing mistakes. So attempting to compete on price alone, right? So I just gave you one reason why you shouldn't do that. The other reason is because if you don't know your cost of production, then if you're undercutting folks, you are probably losing money, like, you know, consistently, and you're going to eventually go out of business. It's just not sustainable. And then prices being too high, you have to really know who your customers are and what their values are. It's really an important piece, part of your target market, right? If your prices are out of line with their values, they're not going to buy your product. And then failing to test different price levels across distribution channels. So even within the distribution channel, like farmers markets, the folks at the Ferry Plaza Farmers Market will pay, what, way more, like 4 times more than somebody at the Fairfax Farmers Market, right? So you really need to make sure that you're paying attention to what those customers' values are. And then failing to adjust prices for market trends and seasonal fluctuations. This was huge. Thank God that I'm friends with Dina because, you know, we had our apricots, well, this was earlier in the year, but we had our apricots coming out of our ears in July, right? And so we were selling them for like $1.50, $2 a pound at our farm stand. And this went all the way through August, and I was thinking, we still had tons of apricots, so I'm thinking, okay, well, if I'm going to sell them to Buy Right at I'm selling them here retail $2 a pound, I probably should just sell them to Buy Right at like $1.75, $1.50. And I'm talking to Dina, and she's like, what? No, you're not. She says, I said, it's August. There are no apricots anywhere. You better not sell those for any less than like $2.75 a pound. And I was like, oh my God, really? Like wholesale? And I called Buy Right, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll take those for $2.75 a pound, definitely. So it's really important to pay attention to those seasonal fluctuations. because you're going to be missing a lot of money if you don't. So keep it. Okay. All right, so this is promotion. Wow, I'm really happy to make that. So promotion materials are really important, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. So what's the first thing you create when you're starting a farm business? Ready, go. What's the first thing? Good job, your farm name. So that's the first thing, but this is actually more important. Your farm name is pretty important, but this is actually the second thing you make. What is the first thing you actually make when you're starting a farm? What's that? Business card! Ding, 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 ding. Right, exactly. That's really important. You would be surprised at how many people here do not have business cards? Just show hands, right? So it happens, right? And you would think that this is important, but it's crazy how we just space it. So this is, I love this business card. This is my colleague up in Montana's farm. And because it's, you want people to learn who you are, whether their values are lined up with yours, and what you're offering, okay? So how do we know this? Like who they are. Here's their list, right? This is who they are. That's the name of their farm. Their values, how do we know what their values are here? Well, it's ecologically grown vegetables, right? And flowers. So that tells you what they're offering, and it tells you also with this beautiful picture of produce that they have an aesthetic, for nice produce. And so that's something else that they value. And I really like this example of the business card. It can be very simple. You don't even have to have a logo. You just need some contact information and a pretty picture. But it's really important to have that to hand out to people. Okay, let's keep going. Logos are important, but they're not critical in the beginning. Developing it takes a lot of time and thought, and it's something that you kind of want. I would say even taking the first year to do that is fine. We kind of made a mistake here with doing the Cloverleaf at Ridgeway farms. Ridgeway was our landlord, Rich, and we wanted to kind of like be part of his farm, and he had this whole like communal farm thing going on. And so we included it in our logo, and then guess what? A year later, he changed his name. So now we're stuck with this logo, right? So I would be very careful about what you put in your logo. We probably have to change it. And then printed materials, it's always good, especially for retail, it's really good to have something that you can hand them that has more information than just a business card. A little bit of information about what your products are. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It can just be a simple like one pager with pretty pictures and a little description of who you are and what you're selling. Okay. And then online marketing, really important. This probably isn't so much of an issue with you guys because everybody here probably knows how to use computers, speaks English totally fine. But it's an important piece. And these are the things that people want to see on your Facebook page, right? Your people, so pictures of your people who's working on the farm, pictures of your processes, so the daily farm life, what's happening on the farm, and then your products. So photos of beautiful products, dinners that you've cooked, meals, kids, great, animals, great. People want to see that stuff. Okay, and then in terms of thinking about how to do this promotion, you have to think about what you're willing to spend. Most people aren't willing to spend much, and in fact, we were willing to spend $0 on our promotion. So we were trying to figure out what's free. Well, online stuff is free. We got weblog, Facebook is free. If we hold events and workshops on our farm, guess what? The media pays attention, and we can bring attention to our farm that way. And writing blogs for folks and newsletters. Next slide. I think one of the most important things that we did was get to know nonprofits. And in fact, it's not that we got to know them, it's that we all worked for them. Did I tell you guys that we were all working full-time jobs, by the way, when we were doing this? So we were all working full-time jobs at different nonprofits. And, everyone just wanted to know our story. Everyone. We got into NPR. Somehow we got on NPR. We got on the front page of the San Francisco Chronicle on Christmas Day. Use your networks. You have people that you know out there, and the more people that you know, the more the word gets out, and you can talk to others about your farm. And then the collaboration piece, sorry. I already mentioned the collaboration piece, but this was with the farm stand, but this is a really important part of it, is collaborating with other farms expands your networks, okay? So it's if you can, it's really important to be able to work with other farmers that way. It gets more out there. Oh, by the way, wait, one more. Just to brag on one more thing. This was actually a PBS. We were on PBS on this show, America's Heartland, which we found out later had 90 million viewers, which I'm so glad we didn't know at the time because we would have been so nervous. But they came out and did a piece on the clover leaf as well. And that was through a connection with California Farmland because they had helped us get the land. So, okay. The last slide, building customer relationships. So these are kind of the 4 tenets of building and keeping good customer relationships. You know, trust, commitment, consistency, and quality. You have to keep all of these things up in order to keep your relationships good. And they probably all can be said in one word, which is trust. And one of my, a mentor, you know, Bob Corshin, who's just this really old but very smart marketing guy. He knows the business inside and out. He says to me that, you know, all relationships in food and farming are built on trust. And I think that that kind of sums it up. You have to be able to trust your quality, trust your commitment, get back to growers when they call you, make sure that people know that you're serious and that that you want to give them the best that you have. And I think that's going to end my talk. If there's any questions.
Can I ask 2 quick questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, my questions have to do with pricing. So trying to get an idea, 1, on expenses, and 2, cost of production. First question would be, can you give us an idea what you're paying for rent for the land? And my second question would be, you went in a little bit into economy of scale with inventory and harvest. My question would be, in the economy of scale, can you give us an idea what your gross revenue is for a year on your operation?
Yeah, absolutely. We grossed about, 32,000. We're a pretty small operation, right?
33,000?
33,000, and we netted about 7. That was our profit at the end of the year. Which I'm surprised. We didn't really realize we had made that much money. But then again, if you think about it, we didn't pay ourselves.
Is that on 2 acres
So
or the fruit?
That was on the whole thing.
6 acres.
So 5 acres, like 1.5 acres and 4 acres of fruit. Yeah. And then land. So we paid $2,500 for renting the orchard.
And how many acres?
4 acres. And this is a deal, okay? That's like $5 a tree. I mean, it's really a ridiculous deal. Our landlord is an extremely generous, very, very generous man. So I don't think that this is typical. Your typical, in Yolo County, your typical acre rentals are $500 an acre is typical. We were paying $1 an acre for our vegetable plot. That's what he gave it to us for. So we were being subsidized very, very well by this very kind gentleman. Yeah.
That's per year? 2,500 per year.
Yeah, 2,500 per year, yeah. But that's also a piece of it is finding these connections and, you know, looking for folks who are interested in doing something different. Yeah.
How much did you pay for water?
Our water was probably around $200 for the year. And I'm not really sure how.
So you had free land and free water, basically.
Yeah.
Was it district water? Was it well? Was it?
It was well water. So we were paying for electricity, basically, the pump. Yeah.
$200 a year for the electricity on your
Yeah.
water. But you don't know how many acre feet you used.
We don't know how many acre feet we used. We probably wasted a ton because of the rabbits. I mean, every time we went in to turn on the water, it was like farm circus. You know, we had to just
So
constantly.
Yolo County, your evapotranspiration's got to be 2 inches a week, at least.
Yeah,
in
we had
summertime.
really heavy clay, and that was one of the problems that we had was we weren't, with the stunted plants that I mentioned, we weren't actually watering enough, is what we realized. So we had to pump that water out after that. We realized we had to water
Wow,
way
you got a deal. You
Yeah.
got an
What
inch,
were
that's
the
for sure.
rabbits doing?
They were eating all the drip tape. So punching holes in all the drip tape, and that was causing a lot of leaks, a lot of major leaks. Yeah, we had a really good deal.
That's the problem, whether the drip tape's on top or it's underground too, they get them
They get them
no
anyway.
matter where they're at.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true. So, any other questions? Yeah.
How'd you get in the Chronicle?
Oh my gosh, Poppy Davis. Do you know Poppy Davis? So Poppy Davis is a CPA, agricultural CPA, amazing, talented woman. She went to USDA to be the head of the Small Farms Program in DC. And somebody called her for some reason and she referred them to our farm on Facebook. So yeah, it's just connections. Connections are super important.
What did you charge for your CSA the first year?
$25 a box. Oh, and I should mention actually that now, so that first year after that was over, three of us ended up having to pull out of the farm after the first year. So it was for a number of reasons, mostly just we were way, working full time and doing the farm was a lot, and Sasha ended up having, she's getting married and then work on Aubrey and I, and was just insane for the next year, so we ended up having to pull out. But Emma continued, and she kept the orchard, and she did it this last year, she kept the orchard going, so. And she was still selling to Buy Right. They opened up a new store, and so she was selling to the new store as well.
What kind of numbers were her numbers? You said 733. Do you know her numbers? 33 gross and 7 profit, you said?
Yeah, I don't know her numbers. Yeah, I don't know her numbers for this year. But I imagine that was actually, she probably did better because, in my opinion, the CSA sucked the most labor out of our system. It was extremely labor intensive. And I think that we were set up really well to do well with the orchard. I mean, the harvesting and labor is a lot, but it happens kind of, all at once. And then the next day, well, I guess it doesn't happen all at once, but it just, there's a lot of outlets for it. So we had the value-added pieces, and then we had the Buy Right pieces. And because Buy Right was so supportive, I think that we were able to really kind of get that advantage of getting on top of those profits that way. Yeah.
Just a clarification, the marketing guru, Bob, what's Bob's last name?
Bob Corson. He works for CAF,
Okay.
Community Alliance for Family Farmers.
And you're sitting next to a CAF person.
Yeah,
His email is bob@calf.org.
thanks. And I would say the other marketing guru is Dina Izzo, who is actually here today. She's fantastic, and I would absolutely use her as a resource.
And you'll hear from Dina on our panel in just a few
We
minutes.
do,
So.
yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'll be here all night, guys.
Thanks, Marisa.
Thanks. And so, even though I said that we were going to launch into our panel right now, we're going to go ahead and flip-flop the panel and the break. So I'm going to give us 15 minutes to get up, stretch your legs. We're waiting for one of our farmer panelists to arrive. So you should be here any minute. So I will reconvene us at 4:30, a little before.